guys, my name's Angelys. I'm a last year nursing student, and today I have a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Ben. I'm also a last year nursing student. I'm in my last semester, so I'm very excited. I'm supposed to graduate in May if everything goes well with COVID and clinical, so I'm super stoked about that. I'm also an emergency room technician or emergency department technician, and I work at a level 2 trauma center, and so that's been a phenomenal experience. And so, Angie, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on here. I'm very excited. I'm super pumped. We're gonna have a great time talking with you.
I'm excited to have you. I think everything you've accomplished thus far is phenomenal. Um, People wish to be in your shoes right now. So I'm pretty sure that there's like senior high schoolers right now looking up to you, wanting to be in your shoes and wanting to hear your story. So honestly, thanks for being here. So I have a question for you though. Why nursing school? Like what about the nursing field interested you that you want to do this long term?
Yeah, so it's actually an interesting story. So I actually did not want to do nursing. I actually wanted to be a firefighter. Ever since I was 4 years old, I was like, I want to be a firefighter. And in high school, I started volunteering with the fire department, and I did that for about 4 years as a fire explorer. And that was a phenomenal experience. And after I graduated high school, I also took some fire classes at my local community college. And uh, in order to become a firefighter, you need to have your EMT certificate, which is your emergency medical technician cert. And so I went to EMT school. And when I was in EMT school, like something switched in my head where I was like, man, this is so fascinating. Like I just fell in love with medicine, like right then and there. And because, when you learn about how the body reacts to different diseases and injuries and like how a first responder can treat those injuries or stabilize the patient until they can reach appropriate care was just like absolutely amazing.
Mm.
And then while I was in EMT school, my EMT instructor, he had a really big influence on me. He was a former firefighter, and he pulled me aside one day and he was like, Ben, you're too smart to be a firefighter. If you want to pursue fire, go for it, but I recommend you get your degree first. And then I was like, all right. And then my mom had always been on my case about getting my bachelor's degree, like coming from a first gen family. She was like, you're going to get your degree. You're going to get your degree. And
Relatable.
I know, yeah. So you know what it's like.
Yeah.
And then part of EMT school, you had to do a 911 ride along with the EMT and the paramedic. And they were older than I was. So they weren't old, they're just older. So they were like in their 30s, and we had time in between a call. And they were telling me, they're like, if we can go back in time, we would have gotten our bachelor's in nursing, because they already had their bachelor's degree in, like, I think one had business and one had like allied health. And they're like, if we can go back, we would have done nursing. They told me the reasons why, like it's good pay, good like scheduling, etc., good benefits. And so with my EMT instructor, my mom like telling me to get my bachelor's degree, and then with the EMT and paramedic saying like, hey, look into nursing, that's when I shifted my focus, like, all right, let's check out nursing and see what it's like. And
Okay.
when I had looked at nursing schools and programs, I was really overwhelmed and intimidated, because there's a lot of prereqs, there's a lot of like the T scores, they want a high GPA, and so I was like, oh my god, like there's actually kind of a bit, but um, I just decided to pull the trigger and started pursuing nursing. And even when I was going back with like ride-alongs with the fire department after EMT school, I didn't care about any fires, I didn't care about none of that. I just wanted medical calls and trauma calls. And so that's when I really confirmed, like, yep, I want to do nursing. I want to pursue this instead.
Wow, Ben, that's amazing. So, but you mentioned so you had someone that influenced you to make this decision, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And are you like content with it? Like, are you happy?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yes.
I literally have no regrets. Working in the ER, I've been an ER tech for 3 years. And so you work with nurses side by side, you work with the physicians, and especially in the ER, there's a high burnout rate. And so I've been in for 3 years and still pumped up, still motivated to work in the ER. You just kind of embrace the suck. And just seeing the nurses, like they're all like pretty happy. Like it can be a tough job, like no doubt about that, especially during a pandemic. But at the end of the day, you're doing something for the greater good, and like that's their why and that's their purpose.
Yeah.
And I really resonate with that. And yeah, it's just like just a phenomenal time. And like you go to the nursing programs and people are leaving their primary careers to go to do nursing. Like
That's
I think
true.
the oldest student in my class is like in their early 50s. And it's like, damn, it's like, it's really not too late. And I even worked with a critical care nurse on an ambulance, and they didn't go to nursing school until like their late 40s. And I was like, wow, like there's literally like no excuse. Like they changed their whole career for
Yeah.
nursing and they absolutely love it. It's like, it's really not too late to go into nursing. So that was another inspiring thing for me as well.
It's true. I have people like on TikTok asking me like, I'm 50 and 60, should I pursue nursing? And I'm like, age is nothing but a number. Go for it. Like,
Yeah. Don't
and I
let that
feel
stop you.
exactly. And to me, the older people are, the wiser they are. And for them, it's just
Yeah.
like they've been through life and they're like, oh, I don't know. For me, I've just noticed that my colleagues who are older understand the material better. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know. Like, it's just like, I need to get older, I guess, because this isn't
They're
sticking.
just, they have like life experience, they're very sagacious and like they just know how to like speak, they know how to test take, they just know how to even communicate with patients in a professional way, even if they have no healthcare experience. And they just carry themselves very well. So
It's true. I feel like for me, I was the youngest in my class. I started at 18. And so being
hell yeah.
surrounded by everyone, like the oldest was 26. And
Wow.
yeah, and I was like, oh my God, Angie's our little kid. Everyone's like, oh, the little girl's coming in, like our little child. And I'm like, here we go. But it did make me have more confidence. I almost like I grew up with them, you know? And I definitely think that they played a huge influence into who I am today. So shout out to all my colleagues who've taught me all that I know. 'Cause,
100%.
yeah, because just hanging out with people who are older than you and wiser, they teach you a lot. So, and you learn a lot from them. So super thankful that we both were able to gain that experience of working with them, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember when I used to be the youngest in everything. Not anymore. I'm like, there's people like I think like 21 right now in my cohort, and like we're about to graduate, and it's like, God, I despise you, but I'm proud of you. But I wish I was 21 too. Before you know it, your back will start cracking.
Yeah, it's true. So, anyways, but like, what's your story? Like your personal story? Like,
Yeah.
what about your family, like siblings? Tell me all about it. I want to know who's Ben.
I got you, Angie. So my dad is or he was an immigrant from Mexico. He recently became a U.S. citizen. So he came to America at 14 years old, right? Striving for the American dream. Um, and then he met my mom. They raised a beautiful family. He also owned his own construction business. And so like with construction, like you have like your highs and lows depending on the year. Wintertime, you see lower business. And so the times that we didn't see, my dad didn't see much business, we definitely faced some financial struggles. And growing up, you definitely don't forget about those times. It kind of like, it humbles you and keeps you grounded as far as like where you come from. So that was really a big impact on my life. And then my dad, he had it was a small business. He didn't really have any employees. So my brother and I, we would help him with his business, and he remodeled kitchens and bathrooms. And like people love stone and granite, but that stuff ain't light, right? It's heavy as hell. It's like literally slabs of rock. And and so it's very laborious work. And I started doing that at 14 years old.
Wow.
And especially in the summertime when it's like hot as hell, and like we worked in a lot of new homes, and so there's no AC, so it's even hotter inside the houses. And so at 14, like it really develops a really good work ethic, and what hard work is, and like how to, like, even at 14, I was balancing schoolwork, projects, and then working on weekends with my dad. And they're very long days, over 12 hours easily. And I grew up in a predominantly white and wealthy community, and so a lot of my peers, they didn't know what it was like to work a intense and laborious job, like a blue collar job. And a lot of them worked at Starbucks and retails, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it's just a little different from laborious work. And I know because I worked at Old Navy too my senior year of high school. I don't know why I did it, and never again. Retail was terrible, and I'm sure the food service industry is just as bad. um, and then I wrestled all throughout high school. That was one of the toughest things I ever did. It was tougher than boot camp. I graduated high school. I did 1 year of college, and in that 1 year of college, I decided to joined the United States Army Reserves. And
Thank you for your service.
well, thank you for your support. I appreciate it. And the way I got recruited, it actually started with a Marine recruiter. Once upon a time, I worked as Paul Blart the mall cop at my local mall, and I was running around in a Segway with a helmet on and a green safety vest. And he found me, and long story short, he basically convinced me to go into his office to talk about joining the Marines.
Wow.
And I didn't do the Marines because he asked me, he's like, what job do you want to do? And I just had this passion to be a combat medic. And he was like, we don't have medics in the Marines. The Navy takes care of the medical sector for us. So we rely on the Navy corpsmen for that. And I was like, well, I don't want to be stuck on a ship. So let me try Army. And the recruiter stations were all next door to each other. So I think the next day or the day after, I just went over to the Army's office.
Wow.
And I told him I wanted to become a medic. I didn't get it. I got the short stick on the contract, but I became a surgical technologist, or an operating room specialist in the Army lingo. And that was a phenomenal experience. At 19 years old, I was scrubbed in on surgeries, doing various orthopedic cases, OB/GYN cases. So it was really great stuff. A little Grey's Anatomy in my life. And so, and then
So
I became,
what would you do? Like, just an example of you being in there. What would they make you do? I never heard
yeah,
of that.
yeah. So what a surgical tech is basically like the surgeon's assistant, the right hand man, if they don't have a resident or medical student helping them out, or a first assist.
Oh, do you like pass them the tools?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
you'll set up the surgical back table. You pass in the instruments. You'll clean the instruments on site. You got to keep track of like the sponges and needles and sharps. And depending on the case, like I said, if you're not at a teaching hospital and it's just you and the surgeon, then you'll also help out as far as like retracting bones, nerves,
Okay,
arteries.
I didn't know that. You see, I knew about the surgical tech, but I wasn't aware that in the military, like you do that. And I'm pretty sure it's more just like if it's how can I put it? If it's like emergency medicine, you're gonna assist, you
Oh
know?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So
And also in the Army, you learn the circulator role. So you learn the OR nurse role as well, as far as patient positioning, being able to count, prepping the patient with like the betadine solution and pain scrub, all that jazz. Because like when you're overseas, you have, if you think staffing's bad in America, it's worse overseas. And so you have to cross train because you're going to be doing multiple roles while you're downrange. And so that was a really great experience. I loved it. I got to spend 3 months in Hawaii. It was like a paid vacation. It was awesome. And then when I came back from the military, I decided to go to EMT school, like I had talked about. And then after 1 year working on the ambulance, I decided to work as an ER tech. And I've been doing that for 3 years, and that's just been a phenomenal experience. And so all my life, I just had this like passion for being able to help people out. And that's why I wanted to be a firefighter. That's why I decided to become an EMT, working as a surgical tech, working the ER and pursue nursing. Because I don't know what it is. I think maybe like my upbringings, you know like what the suck is, and like you want to be able to minimize that on other people. And especially working the ER, like it's just very rewarding because you see people at their worst. It's sometimes the worst day of their lives, and not just for the patient, but could be family members as well. And doing a simple act is like giving a warm blanket or gaining pulses back. It just it just hits different, and like
it's a
you're just like,
rush. It's a rush.
yeah, it is. And so like um I'm sure like out of state, the pay is not great for a nurse. Like I think I make as much as a tech as people as a nurse does in like Texas and like Oklahoma,
Yeah.
which blows my mind, honestly. So the pay is not amazing, but I think what you get out of the job is priceless, honestly.
Of course. But then no, but you're gonna get your BSN soon. And you're gonna be making some money. So
Money, dude. I hope. Let's see.
yeah, so but wow, that is like a beautiful story. And I'm sure that I also believe like I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, and we were just saying that sometimes when our family faces adversity, like my family came to this country with absolutely nothing, like with $1,000 in their pockets. My mom had 3 kids, and we came here for opportunity, for me and my siblings to have like education, to have a future. And so that to me till this day has motivated me. And even like when I was, for me, my hardest class in nursing school was pharmacology. I don't know about you, but taking pharm in 8 weeks was tough. So
8 weeks? Damn.
yeah, all of my classes we finish in 8 weeks. So it was really hard starting nursing school at 18, and I was like, "What is this?" I was so lost, but it definitely, my family story and background, and just seeing how hard my parents have worked to get to where I am now, like that was my push, you know? Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I was like, my mom and my dad at one point they would come home and never see each other because my dad will work 2 jobs, my mom will work 1 job just for us to have food in the table. So for me, it's like, it's only right that as their daughter, I repay them back with like, here's a degree you came to this country to,
Yeah.
for. So that's what I want to do for them. But also people are like, yeah, but you should study for me. And I'm like, I am, but it's for them in a sense. I don't know if that makes sense, because a lot of people, when I tell them that, you're like, you should, get your degree for you, not for anyone else. But I find it hard for others to understand that to my family, that's everything.
Yeah.
That's the reason we came to the States.
Yeah. And
So
I totally agree with that, like, because like, with that degree, you also are open to more opportunities career wise, and, that can bring you more financial income. And so I definitely see where you're coming from because, like I mentioned, it wasn't, like a nice, easy road growing up. And so I think being able to get my degree and pursue a higher career, that's going to allow me to set me up for success in order to take care of my parents as they start getting older and stuff like that. And
exactly.
so in the moment you're busting your ass to down the road be able to take care of them because they took care of you for 18 years.
I know, it's only right. It's like,
Yeah, and like they're dropping, like, think about how many diapers they changed on you, right? And so like I read this study, I think this is like 10 years ago, so it's probably more now. But from the time someone's born to the time they're 18, parents usually will spend $250,000 on them, like food, water, shelter, school, clothing, etc., all that stuff. So it's expensive to raise a child, and so I think it's the least that we can do as far as taking care of our parents down the road.
I
And
agree. I definitely agree. Like I always tell my mom, she's like, when you get married and you like find your husband, I'm totally gonna be unexistent to you. And I'm like, how dare you? Like
oh
that's so
my
not true. I'm like, I got you. I'm not gonna just like throw you out on the road. Like
yeah,
what kind of person do you think I am?
that's so funny.
So, but yeah, definitely for me, I think for both of us, our family has definitely played a huge role in like our work ethic and why we do what we do,
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I think that's beautiful. Oh, Ben has a soft side.
I know when people try to open them, so I'm not very like open emotional, right? I usually just
Aw.
keep it myself, and so every time I like I spill little beans, little breadcrumb trail, people are always like, "Oh my God, Ben just opened up a little bit. This is beautiful. He does have a heart." And so, yes, there is a heart in there, but
But honestly, I don't judge you for being like hard and just like getting the job done, because nowadays it's hard to find who has good intentions and not. So for me, I'm just like, let's
yeah,
just keep it professional and keep it moving, because I got things to do. Like, don't play with
yeah,
me, please. So
exactly.
it's better to have that type of personality. So, and hence it's gotten you this far. So something's working.
Yeah. And I think that's great because like at work, like I don't really hang out with coworkers outside of work. And I like you hear the drama that happens when coworkers get outside of work. And so I'm like, I don't want to get caught in any drama. And so, it just keeps you out of trouble. And like even with school, try not to do anything stupid at school. Like if we have like a before COVID, if we had like a social gathering, I made sure not to consume too much alcohol because I didn't want to do or say anything stupid or anything like that and get me in trouble. So, having that barrier, knowing like when and where to be professional or it's time to let loose and have fun. I think having that line is very important.
I agree. So to answer the famous question, is the hospital like Grey's Anatomy?
I think like maybe a few years ago from what I heard, it sounded like it. People getting it on in the stairways and
Oh,
bedroom and all that. And Yeah, you definitely hear some stories. I think it chilled out a little bit. Maybe it's just because I don't really talk to anyone, so I don't hear the juice, the tea. But yeah, I definitely heard a lot of people like they had to split people up from working different shifts because um, things were going down. But as far as like the OR, because I was like maybe some Grey's Anatomy stuff's gonna go happen in the OR, and I think the only thing I saw was it was an attendee got mad at a resident because she was always showing up to the OR before the resident was, and the resident's still like in training, still in school. And so she went off on him one day, and I was like, damn, this is kind of dope. But as far as like drama, like Dr. Shepard, you slept with Dr. Gray, whatever her name is, none
Yeah.
of that really happened. Yeah, it's pretty low key.
I agree. Yeah, everything is low key. And the way I've seen it, like I had a friend who she was had to do with like her shift in the OR and the attending. This was like pre-COVID, so you could actually see people's faces, you know.
Yeah.
And he found her attractive, so he was like, he called her over after he finished his surgery and was like, "Can I have your number?" And she was like, "Oh, I have a boyfriend, so
Damn.
no."
Oh
So,
my
but
gosh.
so there's some Grey's Anatomy action, but is there an obstacle you faced in nursing school that you thought like, damn, like I'm not gonna make it, or like is there an obstacle that you thought you weren't gonna surpass it, but you did?
Um, I can't think of a time during nursing school, but the first time I applied to nursing school, I actually didn't get in,
Wow.
and I was like, when I got my letter of rejection, it low-key hurt, right? It felt like I went up to a girl in my 8th grade dance and I asked her to dance. She said no. Like that's how it felt. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And and so like like for the maybe like I don't know how long I experienced like the grief of being rejected, but after that had like passed, I was like super motivated to like come back even stronger. And I had talked about this in a previous IGT video, and I'm going to be posting a YouTube video about it. But I still have my rejection letter, and I kept it on my desk when I was still pursuing my prerequisites, because it was a reminder for me that like, hey Ben, like you still have room for improvement.
Yeah.
Because I had applied to a private school. It was the University of San Francisco, and what I was told from nursing students at that program, some of the instructors, they were like, it's pretty easy to get in there. Like it's a private school, so like it's very expensive, so they don't get many applicants. So like they're willing to work with like scholarships, loans, etc. And like it's a pretty high like acceptance rate. And so when I didn't get in, I was like, damn, like I'm really not good. And so I was like, all right, man, like let's go back to the drawing board. Like let's figure out what you got to do. And so I just looked back at back to state schools, and I was like, all right, what do I need to do to accomplish this goal? And I think having that rejection made me really humble, like because I felt like I felt I was probably a little too confident. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get into this private school, no problem, like too easy. Like my
Yeah.
GPA is pretty good, like I'm gonna get in, no problem. And when I didn't, I was like, all right, maybe I'm not good. I need to improve myself. And so I took that rejection as a learning point. And so I was like, I need to strive for straight A's. I need to do well on my TEAS test. I need to continue getting my healthcare experience hours in. And so I busted my ass for another year. So a year later, I applied again to 5 different schools now, all CSUs. And I got into 3 schools, and then I got interviews for the 2 other schools, but then I withdrew my application because I already got into my top 2. So I was like, I don't care for the interview. And then one of them was CSU Long Beach, and apparently they have a really good nursing program. And every time I told people like, oh yeah, they called me for an interview, but I didn't go, they're like, are you serious? Like CSU Long Beach is such a great program. Like it's well known. I'm like, I didn't know that. And I still
Wow.
probably wouldn't have gone in if I knew that. So
Wow.
that was definitely a big obstacle. And like when I hear people or people tell me like, hey, like I got like a B or C in anatomy and physiology, or my T score was really low, like how do you think like do you think I still can get into nursing school? And I've heard of people getting into nursing schools like with like messed up GPAs, like messed up T's.
I had to like 2.50,
Yeah. And
just like
so
everything's possible
oh,
nowadays.
100%. And so like and like when I told people that I was pursuing nursing, a lot of people were so discouraging and negative. They're like, it's so super hard to get into. There's a lot of tests. There's so much studying. And that was really discouraging to me. And so I knew, like, if people came up to me for advice on like, hey, how do I get into nursing school, or how do I study for this test, etc., I want to provide nothing but positive encouragement, because I think people who are negative is just so discouraging. And it truly pisses me off. Like, that's a pet peeve of mine. When people are negative for no reason, that's the fastest way to get dropped from my life, because like I don't need that energy.
Noted.
And so like, even one of my coworkers, he came up to me and he was like, Ben, I failed anatomy and physiology like 3, 5 times. Like, because he tried retaking the classes, but he failed it like multiple times. And he was like, a lot of nursing directors and coordinators, they told me that their program would not even look at my application. And that was like the worst story I ever heard. And I was like, dang, like, this is a tough situation. And then I was like, well, you can try going out of state. And he's married and he's got a kid, so that may not be as feasible. And so I had a conversation with him about 2 years ago, and he just recently got accepted into a nursing program over in Oregon.
Wow.
And it's all online, so it worked out for him because he gets to stay home with his family and kids. And now he's into an ADM program. And so that just shows like there's so many different pathways that you can take to become a nurse. You can do CNA, LVN to RN. You can do an ADM program. You can do a BSN program. There's just so many different avenues that you can take, which is what's so great about nursing. Is there's so many pathways you can take to become a nurse, and there's so many pathways that you can take once you are a nurse. And there's so many services out there. So there's a lot of flexibility with this career, which is what makes it so great. And so anytime someone's just like lost in the sauce, they don't know what to do, they have a lot of self-doubts, which is so common. Everyone has self-doubts at some point. And I think being able to provide a positive environment for them and let them know, like, hey, like, you can accomplish this, like, you can achieve this, is just super important. And that can definitely, change the game for them mentally.
I couldn't agree with you more. When I started nursing school, and again, being so young, I just felt so lost. I didn't know my method of studying. And, my peers would be getting A's and I'd be getting C's. I ended up, like, I failed chemistry. But the reason, so let me backtrack this. I went to Chamberlain because doing your prerequisites with Chamberlain, even if you end up getting a C or whatever it is, as long as you pass the class, you're still guaranteed admission to the nursing program. It's
Oh,
like,
wow.
so that's why I decided to go to Chamberlain. I liked security and,
Yeah.
just having my future set and me not having to compete with anyone who has a higher GPA. No, like, you're in the nursing program, just do your prereqs. And that
Yeah.
was like, oh, thank God. But I ended up not doing well in chemistry. And, at first, like the couple weeks, I was super upset and sad. But I also had something personal going on, and learning chemistry in 8 weeks was no joke. So that was just a no-go for me. But here's the thing. I could have been a different person and been like, oh my God, I'm a failure. I'm not going to become a nurse, but instead I had a different outlook on it. I changed my mindset, and I was like, well, Angie, it's just not my time to shine right now. Like, for some reason, God, the universe, whatever people believe in, didn't want me to be a nurse right now, but hey, like, now I'm 8 weeks away. I met my best friends in nursing school. And just the way that I think of it is, if I would have gone on, I would have never met my best friend and the people who I'm with now. You
Yeah.
get me? So everything plays out perfectly. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of crazy, like, how to think about those things, but it's true. And honestly, my one advice to every nursing student is that you just need to change your mindset. One bad grade doesn't determine your
Yeah.
ability to be a good nurse, because trust me, I've seen it in the hospital where the students who always get A's, like, not to talk bad, but a lot of them are afraid to even speak to the patient. So
Yeah.
don't think that because Freddie is scoring hundreds, he's gonna perform. I mean, hopefully
Yeah.
Freddie performs well at a clinical setting, but sometimes a lot of them don't. So I always tell that to current nursing students and future nursing students, that it's okay to not always be scoring hundreds and getting A's on your exams. Like, that doesn't determine your ability to be a great nurse,
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
for me, yes, I did fail chemistry, but then going on to nursing school, I never failed any classes in nursing school, and
Mhm.
was still able to make it to the dean's list even with me failing
Hey, let's go.
chemistry. You get me? So I always tell people, it's like, chill. Like, it's not that deep. Just work harder. Use it as motivation. Change your mindset. Because I don't know, like, what are you gonna gain from being at such a negative environment?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and now that nursing school is online, that's a blessing. Like, I wish I could have been chilling at home 2 years ago, not having to deal. For me, I learn best alone, in solitude, like writing on my whiteboard. If nursing school was
What?
online for me, I wish, like 2 years ago, I would have been chilling, in the sense that, like, just being able to focus at home is important for me, and not having distractions, doing everything at my own time.
Oh, that's so interesting because I hate studying at home by myself, and
Really?
it's
I
too
love it.
quiet. Like Starbucks was like my go-to spot. Like I just put my headphones on so no one talked to me because like every Starbucks I went to, I always had like multi-level marketers come up and talk to me and try and convince me to get into their business, and it's like, damn, these guys are unrelentless. But like I don't know, just hearing the coffee beans, like the Starbucks workers calling people's names, I don't know why. Just like it was like my zen. This is why my virtual background is a coffee shop because it takes me back to Starbucks. And but I think you bring up a great point as far as changing your mentality in nursing school. Because I absolutely agree. Like grades do not determine if you're going to be a competent nurse at all. 100%. I personally think that NCLEX is stupid. I think you have these students who bust their ass for years in a nursing program. They graduate, they show their competency. If they weren't competent, they wouldn't have graduated. And now this 75 question test is going to determine if you're able to provide care or not. I just think it's kind of silly because I think the NCLEX is more of so like, are you a good test taker versus are you good at applying your skills in the bedside?
Yeah.
And I've had my fair share of getting like C's on test,
All
and
right.
I usually don't get C's on test. So when I got them in nursing school, I was like, damn, like what the hell? And but like it kind of sucks initially, but then it's like I still know that I provide competent care at the bedside, so I don't give a damn about this test.
Exactly.
Like nursing foundations, like I had this one question. It was like a patient complains of pain. What's your primary nursing intervention, right? One was assess the patient. Two was give meds. Three was notify the provider, and the fourth one was build trust. And I was like, assess the pain, and it was like build trust. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? If you're in the ER and someone's in like 10 out of 10 pain, you're not going to be like, let me like they want their pain meds, right? They're in excruciating pain, and so I think building trust is important with your patients 100%.
Yeah.
But like, as far as like your interventions at the bedside in that moment when a patient's screaming for help is not to build trust. It's let's figure
Assess
out what's
the
going on.
patient.
You need to assess the pain, right? You need to see what's going on, OP Kirsty, all that. So I think tests are stupid. I hate them. And like, and when people, like they really let the negative thoughts flow in them, like as far as like, is this right for me? Is this the career I chose?
Yeah.
Should I still do this? Am I good enough? I think as far as grades, like I said, and you said, it does not determine if you're going to be a competent provider. And like you had mentioned, there are people who do really well academically in the prereqs, but they don't know how to communicate with patients. And that's why a lot of nursing programs are starting to implement interviews so they can see how you are as a person.
Yeah.
Because communication as a nurse is super important. Like you have to be able to communicate with your patient.
It's
Hands down, it's
100%
a
true.
must.
Yep. So, and I like that you brought up the fact that, okay, in nursing school, when you take your exams, I don't know if you've noticed, but like there's some questions that just don't make sense. Like
Oh
select
yeah.
all that apply. And I'm just like, it doesn't make sense. But honestly, one big tip is, if you provide your professor proof that, it's gonna sound really bad, but I've done it before, where it's like it doesn't make sense and they're wrong, and you fight that, I've
Yeah.
gotten points back. You know what I mean? So
There's people that come up to my professors because like before COVID, they would just chill in the classroom or like in the middle of the computer lab. And, there's probably realistically, there'd probably be around 5 to 10 people who brought up to the professor a question like, hey, like, what the hell is this? Like, how is this answer? And almost every test, practically like I would say above 90% of the tests that we had, we would always get at least 1 point back
yeah,
because of a faulty question that
yeah,
doesn't make any sense or the answer is completely wrong. And it's like, So yeah, I always tell people don't let grades influence your confidence or ability to become a nurse, because it really doesn't
And
matter.
even if you're not a confident student, because I'm sure you get the same question as well. It's like, oh, how are you so confident to post stuff on social media? Or like, how are you just so confident the way that you speak and act, you know?
Yeah.
So my one thing is just, even if you don't feel confident, like let's say like starting that IV, or you feel kind of nervous performing that like head to toe assessment, in front of your professor, you just have to tell yourself like, I am confident. And I know it's like cliche, but once you start consistently telling yourself I am confident, you eventually trick your brain and you start believing that and you start becoming
Oh, yeah.
confident. So I feel like that's my one thing in nursing school is the confidence is something that you have to continuously tell yourself that you are that, even though right now we don't feel that. So I don't know about you, like, is that
I know, I agree.
you
I
agree?
think you have to have a daily mantra. And my mantra in nursing school, like if my professor told me to do something or my clinical instructor told me to do something, I would be like too easy, right? And I learned too easy from the army. Like they say, hey, go run 10 miles. You're just like too easy. Mentally it's gonna suck, and you're like, oh, I hate my life. But you tell your mind too easy, and now you're switching your perspective.
Yeah.
And that will you tell your mind yes, your body will follow, right?
Yep.
And it was funny because last semester I was doing my second round of med surge, and my clinical instructor, she was like, for your care plan, I want you to do your patho on like 3 different diseases and connect them all. And I was like, damn, that's hella work, right, in my head. But then I told her verbally, I was like, Allison, too easy. And then she was like, no, it's not. And then I was like, no, it's not easy, but I'm just telling you it's too easy because it makes me feel better and I can do this now. And so she totally did not get that catchphrase or that mantra. And so I thought it was really funny. But,
Maybe she'll
even
watch this video.
I know, I'm gonna tell her to watch this video. And but yeah, that's just like the mentality you have. Like if the first time I ever did an IV in clinical, my I actually asked my nurse, I was like, can I do it? Because this guy had juicy veins. And I was like, I feel confident. And then she was like, yeah, sure. And then in the ER, they always go for the AC.
Mm,
And I was like, is the AC okay? In med surg floors, they don't like the AC because if the patient like cranks their
right.
elbow up, it sets the alarm off for the pump. And then she was like, go lower. And I was like, oh, that's unfamiliar territory for me. But then in my head, I was like, too easy. My hands were shaking like crazy. And I hope the patient didn't see it, but I was hella nervous. But, I got it. And you really have to tell your mind, like, hey, I am confident. I can do this. This can be done. I
Yep.
will succeed. Any kind of positive reaffirmations that you got to tell yourself, because it will affect how you perform 100%.
Exactly. So, so after, this whole entire talk, like what's one takeaway that you would want a nursing student to just understand after watching this video? Like what's one advice you would give to someone wanting to go into nursing or is a current nursing student?
So I would say, um, for current nursing students, I think a big thing is, in order to set yourself up for success as a new grad, um, it's the time to set yourself up for success as a new grad is while you're in nursing school.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is when you're in clinical, build good rapport with your clinical instructor, build rapport with your professors. If you work in a healthcare setting while you're in nursing school, even better. Definitely network with your coworkers if you work with a physician, etc. Because those people can make a great letter of recommendation for you or be a reference for you when you apply to your new grad position. Because it still is kind of competitive. Like you'll be competing against a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand people for a 10 position job. And so also pursuing like your advanced cardiac life support certificate, your PAL certificate, your NIH stroke sales certificate, anything that's going to make you come off more marketable and be like, all right, this applicant here has a solid resume. Let's freaking go. Let's hire this person. Let's
I'm
call them.
sorry, but I don't know if you see my sister. She
Oh,
literally
she,
crawled in.
yes, she's crawling.
So sorry.
Tell her to never be a robber. She would get caught on all the cameras.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry, Ben. That was hilarious.
Don't worry. But yeah, that's like my biggest thing is like make yourself marketable, because you had to do that to to become a competitive nursing applicant. It's the same thing with new grad. You got to be competitive. And so I just recently got my ACLS and PALS. I plan to get my NIH stroke scale certificate this month or next month, because new grad programs, they're already starting to take applications next month.
Yeah.
And so if you're in nursing school, start looking at new grad programs, look at their interview dates, look at their open interview or open application dates, and start cranking it out. Let's get this bread, guys.
Exactly. And what about for someone like high school students wanting to be nursing students?
So the biggest advice I always tell pre-nursing students, if you're in high school, whatever,
Mhm.
get that healthcare experience, whether it's volunteer or paid position. Having healthcare experience will benefit you so much in clinicals because you'll be comfortable with patients. The first time I ever went up to a patient was when I did a ride along as an EMT, and I was so nervous just to ask my ANO 4 questions. You know, what's your name? Where are we? What year is it? What happened today? I was so nervous. I couldn't even introduce myself without shaking. And the patient didn't give a damn who the hell I was, but I was just so nervous. And so having the healthcare experience before nursing school, that allowed me to go into clinical being like, hey, Mrs. Jones, my name is Ben. I'm a nursing student. I'm going to be doing an assessment on you today. What's going on? You know, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Super confident. And it also makes the patient feel more comfortable, because as soon as you slap a student at the end of your title, they're like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Like, get away from me.
yeah, exactly. But if you come off confident, that makes them a little bit more relaxed. Because
It's
if you're
true.
like, my name is Ben. I think I'm going to do an assessment on you today. You know, it's not going to, they might kick you out of the room.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
100%. Like, I walk in there and I'm like, hi, my name's Angelys. I'm a student nurse. Like, what do you, just building that rapport with the patient, sounding confident within yourself.
Yeah.
And it transmit that to the patient as well. And they'll start trusting you. I have patients now that instead of the actual nurse, they're like, can I have the girl
Yeah.
in blue?
Yeah. The girl in blue.
Yeah.
And also, like, on top of having healthcare experience, you're able to see clinical manifestations, like, like the JVD, the pedal edema, all
Yeah.
that stuff you learn about in textbook, because the textbook pictures does not do symptoms justice. You have to see it in real life and know, like, okay, that's it right there.
Yeah.
This is cyanosis. This is pallor. And when you come to nursing school, you're like, when they talk about, like, pathophysiology diseases, you're like, I know what that is. I've seen it before. And like when you take tests and they give you a scenario, sometimes you see that patient in your head. They're like, oh wow, I've had this patient before. I know the answer to this question now.
Exactly.
And so that's why I always tell all pre-nursing students, if you're not already in a volunteer or healthcare paid position, get on it. And so and also you get extra points on your nursing application if you have healthcare experience,
It's
which can give you an edge and make you more competitive, especially if you're lacking in the academic sector of your application.
I 100% agree. But one thing to note, I just want to say, because I've realized I have a lot of friends who are CNAs, they work in healthcare. And the
Mhm.
one thing that I see with them is that when they take a test and them having the experience from the hospital and whatever their medical background, don't ever combine what you see in the hospital versus textbook, because that's where you will mess up. It's not a perfect world, and sometimes the hospital doesn't follow textbook protocol like word for word. So when you're in school, if your textbook says it's done that way, follow that. Don't go by what your hospital
Yeah.
ends up doing, because you're going to get the question wrong. And that's where I find a lot of my colleagues who are CNAs and again work in healthcare, they struggle in that area a little bit. I'm not saying they mess up their entire test, but like they'll end up getting like a couple questions wrong on their exam.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like it's like you have to know like what's textbook version and what's real life version. And every test you take, you have to think, what does the textbook want me to say? Not like what would I actually do in real life? It's
Exactly.
like that question I was talking about previously. Like my first thing I would do is assess the pain, but the textbook wanted me to say build trust with the patient.
Yeah.
And so that's something that you definitely need to be able to differentiate and understand. Like even though I would not do this in real life, this is the right answer. And so I think you bring up a really great point on that, because like that's a huge
Yeah,
thing I definitely struggled with when I started nursing school.
for sure. Because and I would just remember them like they would get so confused. It's like, but I do it this way in the hospital. And it was my pathophysiology professor was like, stick to the textbook. Like that's
Yeah.
why a lot of people weren't doing so well. So if you're a nursing student, work in the medical field, just remember that one key tip. Read over the boxes, look at the highlighted words in the textbook,
Yeah.
and you'll be fine. But just don't confuse your knowledge, you know?
You gotta separate those two.
Exactly. But Ben, I just want to say it's been a pleasure getting to know you. I think that you are an amazing individual, and I know that you're here on this earth to, I can see it. Like you're here to be in the service of other people, and you're definitely going to change several lives. So again, thank you for your service and your willingness to do to be in this field in the nursing community, because it's not hard. And sometimes I feel that nurses, and especially men in nursing, are underappreciated, you know? So I just want to say thanks for finally, like, I just feel like it's all sometimes female. So shout out to all my male nurses out there. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Angie, for having me. It was an honor and a pleasure to speak with you today and share each other's stories. And
Exactly.
I feel like I learned so much more about you today because I've been like stalking your profile the past year ever since I got my nursing page going. And it was, a pleasure having you. And you're gonna do great big things in life as well. You're about to be 22 years old, RN. Let's freaking go! Like, damn.
BSN too.
RN, BSN, damn. That's baller status right there.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate you. And let me know, where can people follow you? I'm going to put all of his social media handle down below in the video, but please
Yeah, check
do
it
the
out, guys.
honors.
Nurseben underscore, too easy.
Nurse Ben underscore. What about on TikTok and on YouTube?
TikTok and nursing is nurseben underscore, and then YouTube is just Ben ORDAZ.
Ben ORDAZ. So you guys heard it here from Ben. Um, go check him out. He has amazing content. He's funny. He has the entire medical background, like to the T. So go follow him, you guys. And again, thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you like it, and leave any questions down below, because Ben and I will try to get back to you guys and answer any question that you may have. So have a good one, guys. Stay safe and continue to social distance.
Bye,
All right.
guys.